Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lacrosse Brevard. This is our episode 1, first time doing this, where we're going to talk about everything lacrosse across Brevard. So we're going to talk about the high school teams, both boys and girls. Today we'll talk mostly about the boys' side, talk about the team matchups every week. We'll focus about the specific game of the week that's going to be broadcasted on BSN, and we're going to do this weekly. So every week we'll post this, and you'll get your sort of feeling about what's going on and what players to watch, the teams that are winning, the scores, and we'll just kind of keep posted on everything that's going on. In fact, we hope to break down game film and all other sort of cool stuff as the time goes on, and basically we make this better for you all. So with that, this being our first episode, I think it's probably important to kind of do introductions of like who we are. So next to me is Jordan Moss and Josh BUZZARD. I'm Adam VASQUEZ, and we all coach, play in the region, and played at various levels. So we hope to bring these insights to you guys. So Josh, why don't you kick it off? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, hey everybody. Josh BUZZARD. I'm the boys director for Space Coast Lacrosse here in Brevard County, as well as the assistant coach at Melbourne High School. I have been around lacrosse for pretty much my entire life. My dad picked it up when he was active duty in the Air Force in the 90s, and I got my first stick when I was about 4 years old. When my dad got off of active duty, we moved back to Pittsburgh. That's where I grew up and played in high school. Before I briefly played at St. Vincent College prior to enlisting in the Air Force myself. So I began my coaching career kind of hand in hand with when I joined the military. I've been doing that for the last 13 years at every level, from being a youth director to being a Division II head coach. And over the last 3 years, I've been involved with coaching down here, kind of in that same vein of everything from U12, U10 to the high school varsity level. And super excited to be able to jump on a podcast with some of my great friends and coaching colleagues in the area, and just provide more exposure to all the great young lacrosse players here in Brevard County.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Moss. I coached at Rockledge years ago. I came down here in like 2013, 2014, began with them for 5 years before COVID. I'm from Long Island, New York. Played lacrosse at Comstock High School and for Team Long Island, and traveled all over. Got into coaching with Space Coast here in the off season a couple of years ago. Met these two and got my coaching on.
Awesome. Yeah, Adam VASQUEZ. I've been playing since 1986, so you guys can do the math. Played college at Randolph-Macon, college in Ashland, Virginia, part of the Old Dominion Athletic Conference. Coached at various levels, high school. Now coach at Vieira High School. Also helped run Space Coast Lacrosse Association with these guys. And then also Tier 1, which is our sort of private organization that helps with some of the expert level skills that we don't provide necessarily as much in the Space Coast Lacrosse Association as far as clinics and things.
Squez is being modest. Drop that state championship.
Yeah, so I was at Oakton High School coaching. We won 3 consecutive state championships there. And then played at the post-collegiate at that pro level for Washington for about a decade. So lot of experience in the room, and we hope to bring this and make lacrosse sort of break it down and make it easily accessible for everybody. But going into that, talking about introductions, right? Let's talk about the biggest game that's happened, which was happened last week on Saturday.
Yeah, we the 3 of us went and caught the Florida Tech home opener out there at Rick Stotler Field on Florida Tech's campus this past Saturday. Fantastic weather, breaking out of the little cold spell we've had. Just a beautiful Saturday for college lacrosse. Number 18 Rollins, another Sunshine State team, came into town. And interestingly enough, something that Coach MacArthur over at Tech has done these last couple of years is he seeks out those ranked conference teams, and rather than trying to find someone who wants to travel to Florida, he'll schedule an extra non-conference game against some of these really tough ranked teams. So you saw that when they opened last week at Tampa and lost a close game with them. And then number 18 Rollins comes to town, and even though they'll see them again in a conference matchup later this year, this was considered a non-conference game. Tech was able to pull out the win, 11-7, I believe was the final score, and really controlled the game in an impressive way. They were able to overcome a lot of adversity in terms of some questionable calls from the officials. Coach MacArthur won a challenge in the first half of that game on a call that was called a goal on the field for Rollins. And then after his challenge, they determined that the player was in the crease and they disallowed that goal. But really impressive job by them to overcome a couple penalties that were questionable, a lot of calls on face-offs that went against them.
And they were 2 men down at one point.
Yeah, they went 2 man down. I believe they killed at least one of those, if not both of those, off in that sequence. And just very impressive defense. The leadership from Jax Francisco in the goal to make 11 saves, a huge part of their win. And then they had Max Henry, an attackman that finished the game with a hat trick, and then a midfielder, Thomas Strong, that chipped in 2 as well. So balanced performance from them. Really impressed with just the consistency that they showed throughout the game. They didn't deviate from their schemes and their systems. And it was really awesome to see the local lacrosse community show up to support the highest level team in our area. We saw team players and coaches from a lot of the different local high schools, and it was exciting to kind of interact with them. Everyone's been in their silos for the last month or so, preparing for this week where the high school season starts and all these games that we're about to talk about coming up. So to see the kids interacting with each other and the coaches all having conversations is a really cool thing, and just kind of a hub on a Saturday for our Brevard lacrosse community to get out and watch a game.
One of the most impressive takeaways from the game was both teams just stayed consistent.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some mental errors, as you would expect in any first home opener early in the season. A few offsides that probably will get worked out from the FIT perspective. But generally speaking, when you look at Rollins, right? Rollins was playing, down at one point by 5 goals, and then I'm pretty sure they brought it back within 2 or 3.
They got it to within 3. I remember kind of looking around to you guys and like, all right, well, they cut it to 3. Is this next goal is a big one? The difference between getting it back to within 2 or Tech being able to go back up 4, which they did, and were able to close out the game, but. Yeah, both sides showed a lot of ability to fight through adversity and played well.
And although it was the final score is 13-8, Florida Tech won, of course, but man, it was a 1-point game back and forth that first half, really, in a lot of ways.
So very, very back and forth game.
The pace of the game was good, fast paced, which is good for all the local kids, like you mentioned, coming up and watching a different pace of game that they're used to, because it's a lot more slowed down when you're at the high school level, and then they come out and watch the ball whip around and the transition coming, guys switching off and on sides constantly to make transition plays, and it's a big learning experience for everybody involved.
Yeah, and a couple things we can learn from the high school level is not a lot of drop balls.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
So when that ball on the ground, when that was a possession opportunity, ground balls were really the difference in the game. And FIT really kind of seemed like they, now statistically have to look, but they really looked like they were winning the majority there. And, against a Rollins team that was technically FIT was the underdog going into that game, right? And so it's just such a solid win to go into their next game. Who do they play next?
Yeah, so this upcoming Saturday, they have number 4 Wingate, so top 5 Division II program coming into town to play them. Another great opportunity for anyone in the community to get out and watch some great lacrosse here on Tech's campus in Brevard County.
Awesome. So let's just jump into sort of what's going on in the region for lacrosse. I mean, that's one of the segments where we'll just highlight what's going on. We'll save time talking about the teams at the high school boys level, but just the biggest news for our region is we finally have a youth organization.
Yeah.
Yep. So, this year is really the first inaugural season where we have 4 community teams playing together in a very Pop Warner sort of football way. where they local practices, and that will start. We all come together this jamboree on the 22nd of February, but the practices start that Mondays and Wednesdays, starting February 23rd, and then ends in May 17th. So a good chunk of the season, lots of games opportunities with Saturday games, which will also be broadcasted on BSN as well. So a lot of really good opportunity, and we talk about this as coaches all the time. We want Brevard County to be consistently not just one or two teams going out and competing for states. We want all teams to be competitive and having that opportunity to represent Brevard in a strong way.
And step one of getting that accomplished is starting at the youth level instead of starting at your high school. Getting some ground balls under your feet, getting some shots behind you. Learning the game pace early on is going to help grow at the high school level, and then get you ready for that college level if you choose to play at that level.
So, so it's a little bit of a shameless plug here, but it goes from U6 to U14, no experience required. Great coaching. We have roughly 25 coaches helping out. Both some are coaches like ourselves that may have kids in the organization, but are also coaches outside, and were coaches before we had kids. And then we have a lot of parent volunteers that may have played the sport before, but just want to be part of with their child and have that shared experience. So a lot of really good things happening. So anything else going across the county other than what we're about ready to jump into?
The high school season's about to take off. We're going to go through the schedule for all the local teams' weekly games, and you'll see there's a jam-packed schedule for week one. We did mention the Florida Tech men's home opener. On top of that, the women's opened the season as well. They were at Rollins while the men's team played Rollins at home. The ladies traveled out there to take on the Rollins team. They ended up losing a double overtime game. But exciting, good lacrosse being played kind of all over. Excited to get the youth season rolling. And in the high school side, I think we have an interesting season across the region in just the way that you look across the county, and there are a few teams that are exceptions to this, but you look at a 2A returning district champion in Vieira that graduated about 60% of their goal scorers. Melbourne, that was in the district semifinals in the same boat, graduating about 60% of their goal scorers. Holy Trinity, single A district champion, graduated a lot of goals that were scored. Yeah. And you see that from a lot of schools across the area. Satellite, another program where they graduated a huge senior class. So there's a big opportunity across our local high schools here in the Cape Coast League. That will be, or Cape Coast Conference, I should say, that where there will be a lot of guys that are moving up from that JV level to varsity, or maybe from being a rotational player to a starter. And there will be a lot of new faces that are responsible for team offense this spring. Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of the top scorers this year weren't even on varsity last year, right? So you look at Nico Lopez. He moved up to varsity after he had 6 goals against Lake Mary on the JV level, right? And I think the final score of that was really the breakout for the Vieira JV team. I think they beat them 14-3 or 16-4 or something along those lines. And Lake Mary was coming off a state championship, right. So that was a big thing. And then the JV team went undefeated after that. But that's the same with every team, really. So really be fun to watch who steps up and leads their teams, especially in the goal scoring category.
Big time.
But there's a few really good scorers that didn't graduate.
Yeah.
Right? Holy Trinity's got a couple, right?
Yeah.
As well.
Drew Zabinski coming back for Holy Trinity this year. I believe he had 59 goals last spring. So that's kind of a guy that I know everyone will have circled when they go head to head with Holy Trinity. And there's a lot of talent returning. I think a lot of that skews towards the defensive half or to some of the goalies in the area. Another attackman that is a senior this year that I think will have a big year is Legend Caltado at Cocoa Beach. That's a kid that no matter what kind of lacrosse event you show up at, you feel like you always see Legend out there trying to get his reps. And, it's exciting just to see that the kind of, I was a kid growing up that, I considered it affectionately called a lax rat. And it's cool to see some of these kids down here kind of develop that addiction to lacrosse and that desire to seek out coaching and getting better. And I start to see that from a lot more guys down here over these last couple of years.
Yeah, and Vieira graduated. It's all attack except for Caleb Pellet this year, right? And Caleb came from Rockledge after the Rockledge team folded up last year, which was. We're working on kind of reversing that. Of course, we need more sports in the high school, starting the JV. But when you look at teams this year, it was a pretty light freshman class across the region, right?
Yeah.
So JV teams will be leaner than they normally are, with a lot of teams that usually have JV teams on the girls and boys side that aren't having JV teams this year. And so that, will that hurt them this year? Probably not, but it certainly could hurt things in the future. Luckily, most teams have really strong super sophomores this year and a lot of really good juniors, a very heavy junior class. So it seems like the sophomore and junior class were the big classes, and then our seniors and our freshmen are kind of the light classes this year.
You got schools like West Shore who have last year they had I think one senior total, and they have a bright future with them. Speaking of lax rats, kids like Evan, who are on that team, who live and breathe lacrosse as well, watching PLL and college games whenever available. But a lot of these teams are going to be young guys looking to fill shoes.
Well, we had some new coaches this year too, right?
Yeah, coaches as well.
Right. So Andrew Ward going to the West Shore, right? He played at Florida Tech. He's from, I believe, York, Pennsylvania originally.
Yep.
Great player, great coach from when I coached him with him in the off season. But again, first year coaching a varsity program, and there's lots of challenges there to learn.
It's nice to see guys coming back also from going to play in college. They get some experience under their belt at the next level and wanting to come back to Brevard and grow the sport. Yeah,
as an example, you have a gentleman on your team that's coaching on the defensive side that played, won an NAIA national championship last year.
Yeah. Kind of awesome, and I'll keep it brief, but an incredible kind of story of the small world of lacrosse is so part of why I am coaching at Melbourne now is when I was coaching at the Division II level at Davis and Elkins College, I actually was recruiting a young man by the name of Aiden Irvin out of Melbourne High School. Had him and his father Sean up to West Virginia to visit campus and kind of hit it off with those guys immediately. Sean, being a Steelers fan, didn't hurt on that front, and had a lovely day with those guys. Aiden didn't end up coming to play for me, but kind of remained in good terms with those guys. And when I happened to move to the area, I was able to reconnect with Sean, who had been coaching at Melbourne since Aiden was playing in high school, and get involved with helping them out. Aiden now finished his undergrad program in 3 years, and he won 2 NAIA national championships playing at Kaiser. So he is a tremendous addition to our staff and being able to help out this year while he prepares to go to medical school. And that's also just a testament to the things and the places that lacrosse can take you to, even from a non-traditional area like this. You see a guy who used lacrosse as an opportunity to get into some colleges and attack an academic program. And that's a kid that he could honestly still be playing this year if he wanted to. But he accelerated through that degree program so that he could, and that's one of the just cool things you see in this sport is how driven guys are and how the on-field lessons and experiences you learn can be applied to your off-the-field lifestyle as well.
And then MCC's got new coaching staff as well, right?
Yeah.
So Tyler Oblong as well as Tracy Tucker.
Yeah.
Tracy actually his old Vieira guy, and I believe Tyler played at
Florida Tech as well.
for a couple years at Florida Tech.
You see that influence of the big Division II program in the region, kind of being the thing that brings guys here for their college career and to play lacrosse. And then, naturally we all, have fallen in love and call this place home now. And I don't blame those guys for wanting to call this place home and continue to grow the lacrosse game in this community.
Yeah, and so we were looking across the region. We'll jump into Merritt Island and Holy Trinity when we talk about the game of the week.
Yeah.
But Mel High, I mean, you got Brody Simmons coming back.
Yeah.
He's a tremendous long stick midi, but also a defender as well. You can play just about anywhere. He's also a scoring threat.
Yeah, he's a lacrosse player through and through. He's one of those guys I'd put in the Lax Rat camp as well. Really excited about the way he coached himself over the off season. Went and got involved with an FLC state team. Had the opportunity to go watch him play at IMLCA Cup over the off season in December. Play in front of a lot of college coaches, I should say, and against a lot of really high level talent in that 2027 class. And really excited about what he's going to be able to bring to the field for us this season at Mel High.
And you think about who else? I mean, you got Alex Dillon, who's a midi, who's a sophomore, right? He's one of that super sophomore classes, and I know he's a big offensive threat as well.
I'll tell you what, I've had a lot of experience with Alex over the last couple of years of coaching in this area, starting when he was a youth player, and that's a guy that from one of the first times I was on a sideline in Brevard County, I said, oh, this kid is an athlete and he is a lacrosse player. So we're really excited for Alex to contribute more for the varsity team this year and see what he's capable of doing at this level.
Man, let's talk a little bit about goalies across the region because, very strong goalie class, mixed grades, but that's an area where we have a couple seniors and, a junior, and there's obviously other teams, talk about Holy Trinity, Merritt Island, we'll get into that, but, Camden Pearson, who likes to go by Pork Chop.
Yeah.
He's a heck of a goalie, right? And he's just a junior.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's Camden's been fantastic. He's one of those guys too. He's got the great goalie mindset where I don't see him get down or affected by when things don't go his way, which I think is one of the biggest pieces of being a goalie is that mental side of it. This is a kid that shows up every day with a positive attitude and maintains that throughout whatever adversity he's facing. And that's one of the things I appreciate about him the most as our goalie.
Yeah, and we flip over to West Shore. I mean, you certainly had a lot of experience with West Shore, Jordan.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a couple people to really watch here. I mean, just on defense alone, they'll have strong face-off capabilities, but also really on the defensive side. McOwen Maxwell, right? He's a very strong athlete.
Fundamentally sound. Is always looking to learn, goes to clinics, goes to camps, gets as much work in the off season as possible. He's becoming a team leader with a voice as the seasons go on.
And then they've got a great athlete in Dino Villanueva.
Versatile.
Yeah.
He actually I see him play long pole sometimes, and then I kind of my 1 year that I was at West Shore had to switch him over to attack just because we needed some numbers, and he became a really good attackman and played some midi two-way. He's a versatile athlete.
Yeah, he's a guy that through my experiences with him, I have great appreciation for young and high school lacrosse players that are lacrosse players, not a position.
Yes.
When you have a kid that comes to you and tells you like, hey, I'm an attackman and I only play attack, that can be a very frustrating position as a coach, where you kind of say to yourself, well, I might have more opportunity or a different role in mind for you, and you're kind of pigeonholing yourself into this one small part of the game, versus, you see guys that are like Dino that are willing to do whatever the team needs of them and go play whatever position is asked of them. That just makes you a better player for the long term, gives you a better understanding of the game. And I think, if you are a guy that has played a lot of defense and your coach asks you to play offense, you just need to attack it with the mindset of, hey, I know what the defense wants and I know what I'm supposed to do here. So how can I exploit knowing that on the offensive side, or vice versa if you were an offensive guy that was asked to play more of a defensive role? But being a lacrosse player and not a position is such an important thing. You see across great high school teams where you have a guy that might be a fourth attackman that ends up becoming an offensive midfielder, or something like that, or a guy that could be in the mix as a close defenseman, being able to adapt to play the LSM role and contribute to his team that way.
Or guys like Trevin, who you're a specialist guy, you're a face-off guy,
Right.
but you can also be in midfield and you can be a threat offensively. You can hold your own defensively as well. Another well-rounded player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of people are looking at Trevin as being one of the top face-off guys for the county going in.
Absolutely.
You know, so you know, West Shore's, you know, is traditionally been more varsity, smaller team, but what they have is a good core and a good group of kids that play together well.
I think just to kind of briefly touch on that across all the teams in our region now is that's what I'm starting to see, is whether it's one class or a certain group of guys. That you look across all these teams now, and there's a group of 3 or 4 guys that are consistently searching out these opportunities, whatever they may be: camps, clinics, club opportunities, state teams. So be it. You see these guys that are kind of the driving forces within their teams that are always seeking out those extra opportunities.
No, that's great. And you know, we're going to cover many more teams, more players as this season goes on. So if we missed you, it's not because we don't care or we don't want to promote you, but we just got a lot to cover.
We got 9 local teams here in Brevard County. We talked about maybe 3 right there, and just in the interest of time, we'll break that up over the first couple weeks of the season, because now we kind of want to pivot and transition into highlighting some of the big matchups of the week. So this week we have 2 games that are going to be in our Game of the Week segment. The first one of those comes up on Tuesday night and is going to be Viera and Vero Beach. And I'll kind of let Jordan jump in and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll be on the call for that game, actually, with BSN in the booth, kind of commentating for at least a portion of the game, and trying to get some insider info, maybe talk about what's going on in the field to educate some people who might not know lacrosse rules or lacrosse plays or concepts. I'll be able to pinpoint that stuff for you. Vero Beach is coming to Viera at Viera 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock on Tuesday.
Yep.
At Viera.
All right. So Vero Beach was a team that has historically been successful. Over the last 9 seasons, has been kind of running away with that title at the end of the season. Viera came in last year and put a stop to that finally and got their win. It's going to be another matchup, back and forth, 2 strong teams, coaching staff, Whipple over at Vero, and Adam VASQUEZ here at Viera, along with Logan War and a couple other coaches. What do you have on your side of the ball for that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a rivalry, right? I mean, when Vero Beach came in to the district, first time in 10 years that they restructured the district, Viera had always won districts prior to that. And then they lost, they would beat, generally speaking, win in the regular season, then lose in the district championship. They just couldn't get over that hump until last year. That was the first time in 10 years Viera beat them both in the regular season and in the district championship to take that home.
Close games, right?
Yeah, the first game wasn't as close as they, but it's the first game, and so like you said, you just don't know. And I think you know, it was a new style that was coming to Vero Beach last year, and much more like a run and gun style, which is Viera's kind of got the athletes and the speed so they can run that. And Viera's definitely got athletes and speed, but they play a little bit more of a settle down offense type of play. They're fully capable of scoring on you in fast break transition games, but they tend to prefer to settle it down, slow it down, and keep the clock on their side, right? Both teams graduated a lot. You know, the leading scorer for Vero Beach and a few of them are coming back, and And Vieira just wants to prove that it wasn't a fluke, right? And so they want to create that consistency of, hey, win the districts, belongs in Brevard County, want to keep it there. But again, you got to get through the first, and there's other teams that are going to be challenging for the district championship that maybe haven't historically in the past, talking about Mel High. So when we think about this, going into that message to the guys is, play at your speed, play your game. It will work out for you guys. Play smart, and we should get a win. But again, it's Vero Beach, an excellent team, a very well coached team, and a team that has traditionally, and out of the past 9 out of the 10 times, has beaten Vieira. So it's really who shows up tomorrow, knowing that it's the first game. And I don't believe Vero Beach had a scrimmage before, so this could be their first, but that doesn't really matter, right? It never matters, especially at the high school level, where consistency is everything and who's going to show up that day. So anyways, long story short, there's a lot to watch, a lot of good players. On the Vieira side, we got Cody Wessel, Nico Lopez. We got guys like Caden Pellet, who's a senior, Jonah Woodruff, who was all Cape Conference last year as a junior, who's got really unmatched speed in the county. So again, and then with a defense that was graduated, actually all of their kids either graduated or decided to play football because they're going to play football next year in college. So it's a lot of juniors and sophomores playing on defense with John Wheeler in goal. So again, a lot of these kids didn't play each other other than the JV level. So it should be really interesting to see and exciting to see what happens. It'll definitely be a game to watch.
And when I think about Vero Beach as a team, I think we kind of touched on a little bit with their pace of play and what you were saying there, but I think they're a team that really emphasizes efficiency.
Yes.
And I think all coaching staffs measure efficiency a little bit different. I think efficiency is a merger of speed and valuing the ball and trying to eliminate turnovers. It's finding that smooth pace that you want to play at, that is an efficient pace. And you look at them offensively, and some of the things we saw from them last year was really spreading the field out, taking advantage of a full offensive half of the field. And then defensively, not overextending, kind of playing a little bit of a more conservative defensive style where they wait for their opponent to make a mistake and then they capitalize on that mistake. And to me, that can be a very challenging style to play against, where they're almost more of a counter puncher in boxing terms. Yeah. They wait for you to make a mistake and then they exploit that mistake. Yeah. So it's going to come down to, early in the season, who can play the most mistake-free lacrosse. Yeah. And that kind of plays a big factor in it. And it's one of the unique things with high school sports where any given day, a certain player or multiple players could be on or off, and it'll be interesting to see who rises to the occasion in a District 2A championship rematch.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Josh, it's just a matter of, like you said, who's going to make less mistakes, stay out of the penalty box, and capitalize on the other team's mistakes. And both teams are very capable of that.
Yeah.
So,
and you have both teams that, like we mentioned, kind of across the entire region, graduating a lot of guys. So who's going to step up? Who's going to fill the shoes of the guys who have left? Where are the points going to come from? Who's going to be your goal scorers? Who's going to be your defensive guys to stop those goal scorers? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on the Merritt Island Holy Trinity game coming up, and we'll talk about that. But this is a game where everybody's going to say, okay, let's size these two teams up and really understand what they have for the rest of the season. But both teams, again, very well coached. Both have athletes. Both have players that have played for a good amount of time with a lot of experience and have played a lot together in the offseason, meaning the Vieira kids, a lot of them played together in the offseason, the same with the Vieira Beach. Because as you said, it's a very much more insulated lacrosse community down there. it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just that they really kind of have their own little sort of space down there, and they've been very successful.
Absolutely. And so Adam kind of mentioned it, and then that takes us from Tuesday to Wednesday, which are our other game of the week between two Brevard County teams is going to be Holy Trinity at home taking on Merritt Island on Wednesday evening.
Yeah, and that's going to be a great matchup. I mean, when you talk about the styles of the two teams, right? Two very different styles if you think about it traditionally. Not saying that this season will be the same or different, right. But you have Merritt Island's a very physical team. They like to slow it down, play a little bit, they're athletes. I would say that they want to control the ball and try to, obviously, like any team wants to control the ball, right? But you think about the defense, they have of all the teams, I think, right, Merritt Island has the most seniors returning.
Yeah, they are an outlier in terms of last year was not as big of a senior class for them comparative to a lot of the schools in the county, and then this year is their real big senior class. So that experience and seasoned group that they have playing together, that have been together for the last couple of years, is going to be a big factor for them this year. After making it to a district championship game against Holy Trinity last year, to bring a lot of those guys back that have had a taste and been close to seizing that opportunity, this year gives them another chance to take another run at Holy Trinity, who's been the perennial top dog locally in Single A. And it's going to be really fun to see them go at it here in week one. And I think everyone kind of has them circled to find each other again later in the year in the playoffs. So they'll be feeling each other out for sure. And I'll be interested to see who's able to come out on that one and really set a tone for the county this year.
A couple of players to watch for that game, all of which are seniors that we have listed here. Everett Branch, the goalie, he's one of the better goalies in the region, we would all agree. Puts a tremendous amount of work in the off season. Did he go to the goalie Smith? Yeah, he's got a lot of work. Senior, like we said, Michael Merritt, attack. Another senior. We have Tucker Guest, defense, another senior. So it's going to be a lot of guys trying to lead that team.
And we asked like Coach Guest kind of like, what's the theme? Like, what's the overall message he's been pushing for the team? And it really comes down to family, right? The point was playing, we play stronger together, but you take that apart. A team is still built up by individuals, right? And so individual accountability has been the biggest theme for them this year. It's like, listen, you can't control what you can't control, but you can control what you can.
Do your job.
Do your job. Work together as a team, help each other, and it'll all work out. I mean, that's probably a good theme for all of us as coaches, for sure. But it's definitely an emphasis for Merritt Island this year. And talking about Holy Trinity, again, they kind of graduated. They had a big senior class. They graduated about 50-60% of their goals as well.
I'm pulling up some stats from them right now, just on some of their returning players. And the big guy on their offense that people are going to have circled is Drew Zabinski this year. He averaged about 2.4 goals per game last year. And as their primary scoring threat, that's a returning player. He's going to be a big piece of their offense. And then they have an exceptional goalie as well in Joe Wallace, who is another guy that I see at all these different, whether it's summer tournaments, camps, etc. We got a lot of goalies in this area that are really focused on their off-season training and becoming the best they can possibly be at that position. So this is another one where Holy Trinity's got some strong guys on that defensive side as well. I'm blanking on the gentleman's name, but even in that fall ball league, they had a standout pole.
Yep,
very physical, a big difference maker, especially athlete. In transition.
Yeah.
So that's another guy that's going to be a great player for them. But this is going to be an exceptional goalie matchup between those two guys on Wednesday night.
And two coaches that have been there for an extended period of time.
Yeah. There's a lot of consistency between the programs. And so there's going to be a lot of small details that go into who comes out victorious in that game.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just, and then you combine the styles, very different. Again, Holy Trinity is much more of a finesse style lacrosse. Now they're capable of obviously hitting and playing aggressive, I think, like all Brevard teams for sure. But I think they kind of lean more on that finesse sort of Baltimore style.
I think you see just they have a group of kids that they keep consistent in playing together throughout the year. And they know each other and they know each other's tendencies so well that they're throwing the ball to a spot, not to their guy, right? Yeah. And they trust their teammates. They know where the guys are going to be where they are supposed to be, and that just leads to some fun to watch ball movement at times. When you're coaching against them, it can be a little bit frustrating,
right?
But as an observer, they are a fun team to watch play the way they move the ball as an offensive group.
Yeah, and again, it's a senior matchup versus an underclassmen matchup. Again, like Holy Trinity, if you look traditionally, right, they just reload. So the expectation is not that Holy Trinity will win, but it's going to be competitive either way. And if there's a year for Merritt Island to take one from them, I feel like this feels
like the year for them with the big senior class. And a lot of strong talent in that senior class as well, not just from a numbers standpoint, but from a great lacrosse player standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, you take out the people we mentioned in Merritt Island, just across the board, they've got more scores with Lincoln, Aiden, and other
Chase Conley, a lot of guys. Michael, like we've mentioned Michael Merritt before, but just to be able to rattle off 4 or 5 guys that are going to be offensive threats every time they get the ball down on that side of the field. It puts a lot of stress on a defense when it's not just 1 or 2 guys you can really key in on.
Yeah, not that we ever want to predict scores, but it will, I could see it being a very low scoring game.
Oh yeah. With those types of goalies in the cage, that's I was going to say before, like, I think whichever one of those 2 guys makes the most saves, to oversimplify it, whichever one of those guys makes more saves, their team probably ends up winning the game.
Yeah. And I would almost say it's probably maybe even be an under 10 goal game for both sides. But either way, it doesn't mean they're not good or can't score. It's just that when you're playing against two goalies like this,
I think there's something to be said as well that early season lacrosse favors defense. I think early in a season. In terms of the development of team units, I think you can see a defense in their goaltender kind of gel and come together a little bit faster than an offense. I think sometimes offensively it takes a little more time for guys to be comfortable understanding where their teammates want to receive a ball, how they time their cuts, little nuances to things like that. And where I did just say Holy Trinity being a team that they tend to kind of stay within their group, play as their own club in the off season, those offensive players might have a little bit of a leg up compared to some of the other teams where 3 or 4 guys might go play for one program, a couple might be playing for another one. Not anything bad about that either. But just on that learning curve of how quickly a specific unit can gel together, I do tend to see that early in the season defenses have a little bit of a leg up on the offenses. So we'll keep an eye on that in both of these games of the week. And then kind of moving on from there, we wanted to just touch on and highlight the full slate of games that are coming up in week 1 for the local teams here in Brevard County. We have 1 varsity team that has 0 games this week and will begin play next week, and that is Satellite. And then from there, we'll go through in order beginning tonight, Monday night. We have Seminole making the trip from North Orlando out to Merritt Island. They play tonight at 7:30 at Merritt Island. Holy Trinity is making the trip to Lake Howell tonight at 6 p.m. Melbourne Central Catholic and Cocoa Beach will be playing tonight at Melbourne Central Catholic. That one will be at 7 o'clock. That takes us to Tuesday. Melbourne will be traveling down to Fort Pierce to take on John Carroll at 7:30. Edgewood will be traveling to Cocoa Beach to take on Cocoa Beach at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. And then that takes us to Wednesday. And I apologize, Vero Beach is on Tuesday as well. We discussed that during the Game of the Week segment. Wednesday, you got another MCC game, taking the trip up to Merritt Island to play Edgewood at 6 o'clock. Melbourne will be at home, taking on the First Academy at 6 o'clock. And then Thursday, you have Vieira.
Real quick, obviously the Wednesday game that we just covered. Holy
Yes, Holy Trinity and Merritt Island. And then Thursday, Vieira takes on Lake Brantley. That'll be a home game for Vieira.
But that will be at Vieira Regional Park.
Correct.
Soccer's still playing.
Thursday as well, we have West Shore taking the trip down to Sebastian River at 6 o'clock. And then Friday, we have Cocoa Beach taking on St. Cloud coming out from South Orlando on Friday evening at 6 o'clock. And then we also have Merritt Island hosting Boone at 7:30 p.m. So busy week of lacrosse here in Brevard County. A lot of great high school matchups to start the year. Like we talked about, kind of highlighting that Holy Trinity Merritt Island game and Vero Beach. But just rattled off that whole schedule for the week, and there's going to be a lot of good lacrosse if you want to get out there and support these great high school athletes and watch them play this week.
What's interesting to see about the schedule we just rambled off is that in years past, a lot of the teams locally, they kind of just stayed playing each other, didn't do a whole lot of traveling. And now you just rambled off several teams that are from the Orlando area and outside of Brevard. So it's good to see all these teams kind of agreeing to go and see competition elsewhere instead of just staying within the region. That's how you grow as a program. That's how you grow as a county. That's how you grow as a sport, is going to see other teams from other places. Some of these games, these Orlando teams have been around longer and maybe a little bit more experience, and they're going to be tough challenges, but that's how you grow as a program. You go and challenge yourself and play up and play out and go see what's going on outside of your county.
Big time. I'll speak from some of my own past experience on that. And growing up in Pittsburgh, we were historically dominated by the Philly side of the state, and Eastern PA dominated Western PA for years. I was very fortunate to begin my coaching career with a guy I was in the Air Force with, Justin Karam, at Mars Area High School. And Mars now has established itself as a perennial powerhouse in Western Pennsylvania. They became the first Western Pennsylvania team to go out and win a state championship over a Philly area school at the AA level in Pennsylvania. And they did that by scheduling a lot of challenging out of region games where they would see teams they would end up seeing in the state playoffs that really challenged them to raise their level. And I think as a whole across the community here, we're trying to set that standard for our guys that we want to compete across this entire state, not just within this county. And the way to do that is to go see those guys and challenge yourself throughout the regular season. It's hard to kind of puff your chest out and be happy with results when you don't challenge yourself, and then you get to the playoffs and you face some of the tougher competition, and things might not go exactly the way you thought they would. But I think the growth of the teams in this area has kind of forced some of us to expand the scheduling range in areas. And I think one of the things that are long-term goals for the four of us that are sitting here are to get more programs in this area and in this county to add and support varsity lacrosse. So that we can continue to build up these schedules, play more games, and draw more teams, even here to Brevard to play more lacrosse.
And you said four of us. Coach Matt Penley's off camera, and he'll be our kind of stat guy. If you see us looking over and checking stats, that's Matt on the other side. He's just right off camera here. But you're right. I mean, playing up is the way they get better. And that was our formula when we were winning the state championships in Oakton. Our first four games were always like Boys Latin, Landon, those guys. And we might lose all 4 games, but the thing is, you get used to playing at that speed, and then you play all the Virginia schools, and none of those games were close.
And I'll touch on it kind of from the AA perspective that we have, you coaching at Vieira, myself at Melbourne. We're the only 2A schools that play lacrosse in Brevard County right now. So even within our district, Vero Beach, Lake Nona, St. Cloud,
Sebastian River.
Innovation. I don't believe Sebastian River is.
They're not anymore.
But they might be. I'm not 100% sure on that. But you look at even our district that we compete in, and the majority of the teams we can play are outside of Brevard County. So single A, a little bit different, where it is a deeper league locally with more teams. However, when we're talking about competing in the 2A playoffs, we need to go out and schedule those games against the teams we're going to see at that stage of the season, and not just schedule all the single A local teams we have. So that's not even to say that teams aren't good enough or anything like that. It's just you have to prepare for that, the teams and the level that you are going to be competing in the playoffs at, which does add a challenging wrinkle to the scheduling for teams like Melbourne and Vieira.
And I think, the switch for teams that go from being middle of the pack to fighting for the championship, being in that mix, I think the real coaching shift happens when the regular season, you look at it like, hey, we want a winning season. I'm not really caring if we go undefeated, because really what I want, all of this is just training for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Because we want kids ready for the playoffs, where you're really not coaching. You're just subbing guys, and they're making those plays on the field like we've been practicing all year. But you can't do that if you're not putting teams in place of you that are preparing you to play in that playoff level.
So I think with what Adam said right there, it kind of brings us back to briefly touch on the importance of the youth program that we're starting and developing here in the county, because the earlier we get guys involved with lacrosse, the sooner they begin to learn these skills and concepts that we then implement, work on throughout the high school season to get them ready for the playoffs. And credit to a lot of the high school coaches in the area here. They do that in a very short, accelerated amount of time, because you have a lot of high school players that are coming in as first-year players, and to even like re-emphasize that the regular season is the training ground and the proving ground for the playoffs. So I'm excited to see what everyone can do in week 1. I think this kind of puts a bow on episode 1 of the Lacrosse Brevard podcast.
Yeah. Final thoughts for us, because we want to keep this to under an hour, and we're getting at that time. So final thoughts.
I think we've seen tremendous growth just over the last year. It was reflected with the crowd of kids we saw out watching the Florida Tech game on Saturday. And now I'm just excited to see what all those guys can do on the field this week and throughout this spring.
Yep. And as we continue this podcast and what we're doing here, we'll be able to give you some more stats, a little bit more insider info. Right now, we haven't seen any games because the season's just starting. So there's only so much we can touch on, speculating what may happen, what we're expecting to happen. But like I said, I'll be there tomorrow at the Vieira game versus Vero, and I'll give you some more information next week on what went down in that game, tell you how the pace was, what it looked like the coaches were looking for, what players were trending, and we'll get you all that information as we carry on.
Yeah, and so we're pre-recording this podcast. This will come out, and depending on the timing, we're hoping to get this out. Would be tomorrow, which will be Tuesday when you guys see this. That's our sort of timeline. Try to get this out before that game on Tuesdays. Record it on Monday. But I guess my final thoughts are: week 1, baby.
Yep.
Exactly. You don't know what we don't know, and after this week, a lot of things will start falling in place for people. We'll see who's got a team, who doesn't, who thought we had a team, and who doesn't. And there's still lots of season to play, obviously, and great teams with great coaches will make those adjustments as needed. But this is the test. This week will kind of give everyone an assessment of where we all stand and related to each other, because it's so hard when you're practicing each other. You just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just don't know. So with that, I want to thank everyone. Thank you guys for being on this. We're gonna have guests come on, and a real quick shout out to Alan from BSN. It's his birthday today, so wish him a happy birthday when you see him around. And a lot more lacrosse to come around for Brevard. And this concludes our episode 1 of Lacrosse Brevard. Thanks, everybody.